Welcome to Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And today, Tyler, we are going deep into the 2020 Florida Gators football season. That's right, Tyler. It is the Post-Mortem. We are finally going to talk about the Cotton Bowl. Finally.
Yeah, we can't avoid it for too long.
Weeks later, we're going to talk about the Cotton Bowl. And we're just going to go through what we thought about the season, how we're going to remember the season, what we have to look forward to in the next season, if there's going to be spring football, all of that stuff. But it's basically just the nail in the coffin for the 2020 season. You got to end something before you can start moving on to the next. So that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah.
We are also then going to talk a little bit about some NFL stuff. We're going to talk about the Gator prospects in the draft, just briefly as an introduction. Talk about the combine and all the changes. And I think we should end with some Deshaun Watson talk because there's a lot going on there.
Because that's our boy.
That is our boy. Could potentially be one of our boys in the NFL yet again.
Oh boy, here we go.
But we will get to that later. But Tyler, we begin with quick hits, and we begin with the most. If college football news could be like a targeted ad, this would be the targeted ad for me. and it's Jeremy Pruitt getting not relieved of his duties, not parting ways. He was straight up fired.
Fired with cause, no less.
With cause, which means no buyout money from the University of Tennessee, a mere 5 months after being handed a contract extension.
So everybody, we're doing our end of the season awards next week. I will go ahead and the I Told You So award goes to Sergio de la Espriella.
Thank you
for 2020.
Thank you.
Because he told you this was gonna happen. Well,
I did.
Okay. He told you that Jerry Pruitt. We basically are saying that Jerry Pruitt was bad, which meant that he should get fired.
Correct.
Now, how this played out, I don't think any of us could have predicted.
This is so I just watched Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone with my sister. And you know the scene where they're playing chess? They have to get to like the last room and they're playing like actual wizard chess where the pieces like destroy themselves.
Yeah. I always wanted to do that one day.
This is essentially what Tennessee is doing, but to itself. So they self-reported. They didn't self-report violations. They hired an independent firm, lawyers, to come in towards the end of the season to investigate potential,
I've never
bag
understood the
droppings.
whole internal report thing or internal investigation thing. Because I'm like, if you're hiring them to find out if you did something wrong, how does that make sense? Like,
let me tell you why, Tyler. And the only way that it can make some actual sense is if Tennessee, hoodies up, third eye open, third eye activated, is if Tennessee is trying to get caught with these allegations so they can get out of paying Jeremy Pruitt's buyout. Now, this is something that we've seen once before in college football with Kansas, before Les Miles, before that whole regime in Kansas, because of lack of performance and all this stuff, and they just wanted to get out of the contract. Tennessee wouldn't be in this situation if they just didn't give Jeremy Pruitt an extension at the beginning of the season. After 2 years,
you played yourself.
Yeah. And now they're going through this. Essentially, we're getting 2017 all over again because Phil Fulmer, the athletic director, quote unquote, retired, which we all know is kind of some code for we got to get this man out of here, but he won us a national championship in 1998, so we're going to be a little bit nice about it.
Yeah, basically.
That's what that is.
What happened.
And so they're both gone. So now Tennessee is in a situation where, Tyler, it is currently January 20th, and Tennessee is without an athletic director or a head coach. So they're essentially either forced to name someone on the inside to kind of shepherd the situation until they find an AD and a permanent head coach, or they have to rush an AD hire and rush a head coaching hire, which, as we saw in 2017 when this happened again previously, didn't really go so well for them.
I mean, you had 3 years ago. Yes, it's 3 years ago. 3 years ago. You had Greg Schiano and Mike Leach at least agreeing to take the job. You interviewed a bunch of other people, but
Correct.
So who knows about? But you had them both. Both of them, I think, would have done better than what.
Agreed.
Because you hired Baldwin Muschamp.
You did.
You hired Baldwin Muschamp.
And I think that's an insult to Will Muschamp.
Yeah, well, you hired a defensive coordinator that didn't want to be that you called the head coach.
Correct.
And then just said, "Hey, Jared Garantano of all people, bail us out of this." And this is Tennessee continues year after year to shoot themselves in the foot to the point that Tennessee and Nebraska are so similar to each other in the sense of like they have so much history, and it's really not that long ago. It's only like 20-ish years ago. Mm-hmm. It's not like last time Michigan won a national championship in the 90s, but the last time Michigan was really, really, really good, like consistently, was in like the 70s.
Yeah.
That's like a different era. I mean, Tennessee won a national championship at 1997. 98, sorry.
97 was the Michigan title.
Yeah, you're right.
Sorry, I just did a whole project on college football.
I always get the years one off
in
that thing. That was as close as less than 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I would still consider that the modern era of college football.
I would as well.
And Tennessee is South Carolina right now.
I think more so than anything, I think Tennessee, the better equivalent is Tennessee's the New York Jets. They're getting in their own way.
Yeah.
Like it's not like there are outside forces that are preventing them from doing things. If you, I was doing some research after this happened of like, okay, how attractive is Tennessee as a job? Because it still is arguably the third best job in the SEC East. You could make a run every 2-3 years to make it to Atlanta, and you're top 25. Essentially, you can max out currently as like a top 25 school, but you can get up there and you can build a program there.
Yeah.
They have the most expensive facilities in the SEC, which is saying something because we're talking about Alabama facilities, Georgia facilities, Florida. We just built a brand new thing. It should be coming up next season or the year after. There's a lot of money being thrown at that. They have, they just built brand new fields. They have a bunch of recruiting. They think the highest recruiting budget in the country, I believe.
They have one of the biggest stadiums. Which
clearly they have stock in McDonald's Corporation, apparently.
Apparently.
So there's so many things that they have. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it successful? You know?
See the only thing, you talk about the McDonald's thing, is like now your money starts to smell like McDonald's. Like, is that what you want?
Listen, I kind of, not to be bougie, but I think if you're gonna drop me a bag, at least put it in like a Shake Shack bag. Shake Shack. At least, like, you give me a McDonald's bag. I can get a McDonald's bag on any corner of the street. Shake Shack, at least I have to Google, is there a Shake Shack nearby? You know what I mean?
Yeah, give me a Five Guys.
Give me a Five Guys. Give me cash
so
with
when they
my
say
fries
extra, when they say extra fries, because like Five Guys always puts extra fries. It's not. It's extra fries, but it's a little bit extra than that. Come on, exactly. Tennessee.
Listen, I said this in our
they cheated recruiting real quick. Sorry, they cheated recruiting and they still sucked at it. Continue. Go ahead.
Yeah, like no, and that's the point where I said in the fantasy football group chat, I was like, listen, Tennessee's dropping off like McDonald's bags full of cash while Georgia is giving you just actual Chick-fil-A, and they're just like, hey, give me the routing number and the account number and I'll direct deposit you later on. Like they're doing things in a smarter way.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee.
And here's the thing: as much as we,
Tennessee can be good.
They can. There's a blueprint. There's the facilities.
Tennessee's in a situation right now. Like Tennessee, when I say Tennessee's like South Carolina, I mean it in this way. South Carolina, I feel like, has the blueprint that Tennessee has regressed to this point now. Mm-hmm. They have the blueprint. Like they could become a serious contending program year in after year in the SEC. But what now? It used to be like with Florida and Georgia. All that matters is you get your own crap together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what other people would do. But Florida, Georgia, if you want to contend, just get your own crap together, and then suddenly now you're a contender. Like because that's the type of program they are. Tennessee's not like that anymore to me. Tennessee can get to that point, but they're going to need Florida or Georgia to go down.
But here's the thing.
So they can get in there, then they can establish themselves. So you have left, and a lot of college football programs are like this, but Tennessee didn't used to be like this. You have now left factors upon the cap of your program. You have left them to other people to control.
Right.
That is not a place that Tennessee is used to being, and that's where they are now. Like you have left your ceiling. You've outsourced construction of your ceiling to other programs.
It's like when you don't work out for a long time and your muscles go into atrophy. It's essentially what's happened, where Tennessee's like cap was at like, let's say a 90,
Yeah.
And now because they've been so static and have been shooting themselves in both of their feet for the past, probably since Phil Fulmer left in 07, 08, since they've been shooting themselves in the foot that long, their cap has gone from a 90 to like an 80. And the difference there in the college football, especially with all the money being thrown in it this past decade, especially with programs, in their very recruiting footprint, like not even the SEC, but you have Clemson nearby.
Yeah.
North Carolina is taking a step forward in their recruiting.
Ohio State has gone more national.
Exactly. Ohio State's more national. App State in the Sun Belt. It has quickly become the Boise State east of the Rockies. And it's a thing where that's something where they could once in a while steal maybe a 4-star recruit, and it's like, oh my gosh, they got this great guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's different factors and people to take into account. So if Tennessee doesn't get it together, if Tennessee doesn't really, think about this hire and think about the impact that this hire could have, they could really spiral down into, dare I say, they could end up in Kentucky territory where they have a fantastic coach in Mark Stoops and they cap out at 8-5.
8 wins.
You know what I mean? Maybe a generational year of 10 or 11 wins with Benny Snell.
Yeah. A couple things a couple more things I got to say about this. One, my general thing that just always to remind people of: cheat better. Like, just cheat better. Like, there's nothing. I don't actually have any moral issue whatsoever with what Jeremy Pruitt and Tennessee did as far as recruiting, because that's also we are a pay the players podcast.
That's a deeper conversation.
And we're not going to get into that today, but it's a matter of so because of that, if that's the cheating you're doing, if everyone's cheating that way, every single no one in the country is not cheating in some capacity. Correct. Cheat better. 1, 2, everything that's happened in Tennessee, I got to be honest, has really put into context to me how absolutely special of players Josh Dobbs and Alvin Kamara were.
Yeah.
And obviously everybody knows that Alvin Kamara for the NFL level, but Josh Dobbs was a phenomenal college quarterback.
Yes.
Who, we joked about and, had his limitations, and he is what he is. But you look at Tennessee with and without Josh Dobbs, I don't think it has anything to do with Butch Jones. I think, and you see this in a lot of places, sometimes special players come into a program and they change things about programs. Like Josh Dobbs was that for Tennessee. They had 1 7-win season since he's left.
Yeah.
They went 3-7 this season. We made fun of them for having the same record as Rutgers.
A worse record
because they lost one more game.
Thank you very much.
Also, Jeremy Pruitt lost 2 straight games to Vanderbilt.
Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Tennessee as a whole, I think, is I think over the past 7 years, they're 3-4 against Vandy.
Yeah, you can't.
And that's just that's unacceptable. You can't be doing that at all. That to me is rock bottom for Tennessee. The fact that they're 3-4 in the past 7 years against Vandy.
I mean, okay, Vandy will pull an upset every once in a while. That's the way it goes. Sure, because that's football.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 out of 4 is not. You don't accidentally win 3 out of 4 games.
Correct.
Correct. You can accidentally win 1 out of 4.
Yeah,
you don't accidentally win 3 out of 4 and 3 in a row at one point.
Yeah, and I think that's
Kyle Shermer won 3. He lost his freshman year, and then he won the next 3 years he played Tennessee.
I think that's as much to say.
He's a Vanderbilt quarterback that is a winning record against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's as much to say about Derek Mason, but it also has it's a big deal to say that Derek Mason was able to take those players up against the highly recruited players of Tennessee and stuff. So listen, last thing on Tennessee before we move on. What do you want to see them do next? Kevin Steele is in that building. I think he's going to be the interim. Do they elevate him? Right. Do they elevate him? What's going on?
I think he's going to be the interim because, we joked when they hired him. It's just he's going to start a coup, and look what happened. I want to clarify that. I don't think that Kevin Steele meant for this to happen, but it's funny.
Hoodies up, third eye activated. I don't think Kevin Steele initiated this coup. I think he was brought on to finish the coup
for this reason.
Yes, I have a feeling because they were we're gonna have a hiring freeze, and a week later they were except for Kevin Steele, he's gonna come on board, and we're not gonna give him a title as whatever because just wait another week, and this would happen.
I think you would because you don't have an AD yet, so I think that you would just keep Kevin Steele for right now as the interim, and honestly just go through a year with it, do an Ed Orgeron year.
I wouldn't mind it.
I don't think you have anything to lose from that, but then you spend the whole time doing new coaches. If they want to win quickly, they should hire Hugh Freeze. but that will not fix their ceiling. That will not fix their program.
Right.
You hire Hugh Freeze to get you 5 great years of football. It will not last longer than that.
Yeah.
Because we've seen what Hugh Freeze does. He sells his soul. Like if you hire him, you're going to sell your soul as a program, and that can be fine. Like
hey, at least they'll cheat better with Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. I mean, everyone will know, like, have an eye on them in regards to cheating. They'll still do it better.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I'm all for, in the NFL, it's more so than in college, but like, I'm all for maximizing your winning window. So, so like Hugh Freeze will get you a window. He's not going to stay there for very long.
Right.
But that's what everyone's going to point to. I don't think you should go that. I don't think Matt Campbell would take that job. Billy Napier might take that job, but what if Ed Orgeron doesn't impress again and LSU comes open?
I think that's the job that Napier's going after. I think we talk a lot about which job is he holding out for, because he's now been offered 3 SEC jobs and he's turned them down. So it may be
Auburn was the best one. The only ones that are going to come home, but the only one that could possibly even come open. There's only 2 that could possibly come open, in my opinion, anytime soon that are better than Auburn. Florida, if Dan Mullen leads to the NFL, and LSU if Ed Orgeron gets fired.
And I think LSU, it would need to be bad. Like this past year was bad. It would need to be like horrendous.
Yeah, like
for him to go.
I still have a hard time believing he would get fired.
I don't think he's on the hot seat yet.
Yeah. It's like if he has another year like this year where they are so clearly not good.
Right, but then you talk about maximizing windows. Then does Billy Napier miss his window in terms of being the hot coach?
Well, and so I'm not saying if Billy Napier gets offered the job, I'm not sure what he should do, because it is an SEC job and a job that we just said if things go right, you could win at. And Billy Napier is a fantastic recruiter.
Yes.
He learned under Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban as far as the program building department. I think he's built for an SEC program.
I think if there's any coach that isn't already coaching one of the quote unquote big boy programs that could get to the level of a Dabo and a Nick Saban, I think it's Billy Napier. I think it's like in time, obviously, in a lot of time, but I think he could get there in that sense. So,
this is my dream candidate. Tennessee, hire Todd Grantham.
Tennessee, I will sing Rocky Top every week on this podcast if you hire Todd Grantham. I will. I really will do it. Moving on. But last one. Guy with ties to Tennessee. Jamie Chadwell?
Possible.
Coastal coach?
We would have to have another good year, which is very possible. Have another good year and then not want to keep Kevin Steele after the interim, if that's the case. Because then I don't think he's getting hired this offseason. He's had one good year. It was great. But again, we did this with Scott Frost.
We did.
He had an absolutely fantastic second year in that program. And like I too was just like, I thought it was going to work out. And it's not working out so far. I'm not willing to say he's a bust because Nebraska's in a very Tennessee-like tough situation that they're in right now.
Correct.
But we all thought it was a slam dunk because we fell in love with 1 year. We do this all the time. And I don't want to do it again with Jamie Chadwell. Like, because I want better for him. I'm like, Billy Napier at Louisiana, I feel way more comfortable because he has had multiple seasons of 10 wins now. Like, and he probably will have another one. So we'll see.
We'll see. All right, couple other things in quick hits. Chris Olave, the star wide receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes, is coming back for a final season. This was a bit of a shock for us.
I'm very shocked. I'm very excited though. I'm excited to see this. I would really like Chris Olave on my professional football team.
That was my thing where I was like, man, I was looking at maybe we could trade 3 and get to the back half of the first and kind of sneak him away.
I mean, sneak peek to next week, just off the cuff, like the Devontae Smith Bring Me My Money award.
Yeah,
Chris Olave is a runner-up, is the front runner to win that award next season.
Yeah, he is.
Like Chris Olave saw what Devontae Smith did this season. It's like, all right, okay, all right, and they're gonna have Garrett Wilson, and they had a lot of young guys this year that are gonna step up, and this also gives you a little bit of insight to the fact that I think Chris Olave would not return to Ohio State if he didn't think they would be good next year, and if he didn't think that there wasn't going to be a good quarterback to throw him the football. Yeah, and so I'm liking what this means for the Buckeyes in the future. Like, it provides you a little insight of at least how the people in that building feel about their team next year. Correct. And he's not the only Buckeye to come back. He's just the highest profile one. Exactly. Probably the highest profile. He's probably the highest profile player this season to decide to come back.
Yeah, and it was a shock.
Pretty interesting.
He was if not a late first rounder.
Oh yeah, he was sure second early. Round at the latest.
I told you he had pick 33 written all over him. Pick 33 all over. So, all right, and then breaking news, I guess, as of like an hour of us recording here on Wednesday night, Larry Scott and the Pac-12 have agreed to go part ways. He will finish his tenure on June 30th. And the Pac-12 has immediately started a nationwide search for their next commissioner.
Can you hear the people sing?
I was going to say,
the song of angry men.
Us college football fans are rejoicing because,
oh boy. God. All right. I'll do the job.
Tell the people why we didn't like Larry Scott as the Pac-12 commissioner.
Because he did nothing ever that was in the interest of his conference. Mm-hmm. Which, well, that's the reason I don't like him.
Right.
Because it is your job as your conference commissioner. And again, I don't have a problem with conference commissioners do this. It's literally their job. Their literal job is to be the leader of their conference, which means, guess what? You're doing what's best for your conference. Mm-hmm. What did Larry Scott continually do? He put Oregon on a Friday night, weeknight game in front of everyone on the road at Arizona State when Oregon was a front runner to go to the playoff. He cost, and they lost that game. He consistently puts the best teams that they don't do favors for their best teams in their conference, which, you know, that sounds like a really terrible thing for us to endorse because, like, oh, you're doing favors to the best teams in your conference. Like, when you're the Pac-12 in the situation that the Pac-12 is in, you need to make it easier on yourself, man. Like, everyone doesn't like, I mean, we love you here. I love you, Pac-12. I love watching you.
We are in the national Pac-12 pro Pac-12 podcast.
In the college football playoff perspective, the perspective you need to be in, the conversation you need to be in, no one takes you seriously right now. No one's taking you seriously since Oregon. And I was even hesitant on that. No one's taken you really seriously since Washington in 2016.
A team that didn't even get past midfield against Alabama in the playoff.
Don't get me riled up. Okay, that's incorrect.
It is. It's true. We can look it up. And I did this last time on the pod, and I was right.
They crossed midfield on their first drive when they scored and had a lead against Alabama. So you're incorrect. Anyway. That was the only points they scored, but I feel it doesn't matter.
Listen, the Pac-12 needs to start acting the way the Big 12 did this coronavirus season in terms of we're going to find a way to do everything we can to get Ohio State in the mix. That's what the Pac-12 needs to do, and Larry Scott just wouldn't do that.
They got a crap ton of money from that.
Yes.
And guess what? The season's over now. No one's crying about how Ohio State didn't belong in there.
Right.
Not a single one, mostly because they won a game, but we all kind of knew they were capable of winning a game. And now guess what? No one cares. And they got all the money and they got all the exposure. And now the recruits are being like, oh, they play in the national championship and we're coming back. Let's run it all back one more time with Ryan.
And now Chris Olave is returning.
Hey, guess what? You have USC in your conference. Just new commissioner. If you don't get USC to fire Clay Helton, I'm going to come to LA and mess you up personally. Don't think I won't.
Oh boy. Well, we just wanted to mention that because it is very, very important in terms of the landscape of college football.
Yeah. So it really, the most important thing is that Larry Scott's out. I think net positive for the Pac-12.
Agreed.
This does depend on who they hire.
Yes.
Because whoever they hire, put a wall up. You need to put a wall on the Rockies. Mm-hmm. You need to stop Clemson and Ohio State and Alabama from getting the best players in California out. And you can't stop it all, but Bryce Young, best quarterback in California. Where'd he go? He went to Alabama. Mm-hmm. DJ Uiagalelei, one of the best quarterbacks in California. Clemson. CJ Stroud, he's going to be the quarterback for Ohio State next year. Guess what state he came from? California.
I was going to say, I'm going to take California for 200, Alex. Oh, Alex.
Jeez. Because the football talent in California is still there. The high school talent is still there.
Yeah,
but the Pac-12, you get... I've never bought into this whole thing that the Pac-12 doesn't have talent. No, the Pac-12 is in specifically California and even the Northeast, a football-rich area, especially with the Pacific Islands and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You can get a lot of talent. The Pac-12 does not develop or do anything with their talent is the problem.
Yeah.
And they're letting the best of it go to other schools on the other side of the country because they won't lock down their ecosystem. Pac-12, take this crap seriously. And I know that there's a cultural difference out there. In the sense of how football ranks and things, which, maybe that's better for your everyday health, but I wouldn't know. But Pac-12, if you don't want to become, this is a bit hyperbolic, but if you don't want to become a Group of 5 conference, you need you need to take it seriously. You need to take this hire right now seriously.
Like, especially if the rumors of Boise State joining the American come to be true. So, all right, that's it for quick hits. Not so quick. We spent like 25 minutes on that, but that's okay. Tyler, let's jump into the post-mortem. Let's talk about the Cotton Bowl. Oklahoma beat Florida 55-20. Our final ranking is the number 13 team in the country. Tyler, you said that you were watching this game earlier and that what you thought before going back and rewatching actually was what ended up happening. Tell me what it was so we can I want to talk about this game quickly so that we can go into like the big scheme conversations.
Well, it's I wanted to reassert myself with the game flow and how it went. And like, I mean, like even Florida was down 3 of their best players. I would argue they're 3 best players on offense. And Kyle Trask threw 3 interceptions. It's the only game he's played in his Florida career that he started that he did not have a touchdown in. Florida barely had enough numbers to play the game. They only practiced for 3 practices beforehand. They only had 10 days, but they gave their guys off past Christmas, which we know people that have argued for and against that. And I'm not going to get into the giving your players off for Christmas. We're not going to get into that. However, they did not. They came out flat. They came out unprepared. Not entirely their own fault because a lot of their guys were opting out. Oklahoma did not have any of those issues. Oklahoma ran over and threw over Florida. Florida's defense was already bad. Oklahoma's offense had figured it out at this point in the season. Additionally, this has been the tape ever since Todd Grantham got to UF. If you're facing an NFL quarterback, Todd Grantham's defense ain't going to stop you.
At all.
The first 2 seasons, look at the losses, and they came to great quarterbacks. Bad quarterbacks or inexperienced quarterbacks or quarterbacks Todd Grantham confused with the blitz or with a pass rush that we actually had the last 2 seasons. Florida could play really well against those teams. Yeah. But first year was there. Drew Lock carved Florida up because he could get the ball where it needed to be. He's not a great NFL player, but that is an NFL caliber quarterback. Jake Fromm, for always give it. He is super smart in that system. NFL caliber quarterback. Joe Burrow, obviously. Then this year, that not only did that drop off, but I do think that Florida placed a lot better quarterbacks this year. Then you go up against Spencer Rattler, who I probably would think would be the best quarterback in the next draft class, which we'll talk about at some point this offseason.
Yeah.
This isn't going to cut it, especially when you're down a bunch of players. Positives, I liked what I saw from Emory Jones. Anthony Richardson looked great for, being the first game he's actually really played in. But this was an exhibition game played at the end of the season.
So let me ask you about that. That's not an excuse.
That is just an explanation.
So that was my next question, because Mullen, and we've had conversations with multiple people from multiple different groups. Like, we're not just talking about one group. We're talking about multiple people from multiple groups have said that, maybe it wasn't the right mentality. I think one thing that Mullen said was the 2020 football team played its last game against Alabama. And while
I don't disagree with that,
I was going to say, while the sentiment, while the actual fact, I think I agree with, because there were so many opt-outs, because it was basically the last quote unquote competitive game that you play. It's a question of, all right, well, we saw the presidential inauguration today, and we saw the enormous Bible that Joe Biden swore on.
The tome,
yeah. And the George R.R. Martin's final copy of his final book. But we saw it, and the jokes were the book of Dan Mullen excuses, and I feel like at times
it hurts, but it's true.
Exactly. So how much of this was an excuse? How much of this was an actual reason? And moving forward, do we think that will have an effect on whether the mentality or the energy and the emphasis level, and is that something that we want as a Florida fan base? Is that what we want as fans?
Okay, so a couple things about going from all aspects of that. One, it has been said on this podcast, and I'm pretty sure we still both believe it. And this is not necessarily entirely a bad thing, but Dan Mullen is an all-time sore loser.
Oh, all time.
He loves to win.
Top 5.
He hates losing.
Yeah.
He hates losing. And here's the thing, I don't disagree with any of the things that Dan Mullen said in the fact that they are the truth. Like, the last real game that the real 2020 team, as we'll talk about in a second, how I'll remember them, half those players weren't in this game. The identity of this team, like, yeah, teams are like 80 plus people, but there's also a matter of like some teams, their identity can be based in their players and like certain players. 3 of the most important players the identity of this team is based on did not play in this game. That's huge. And I think that while that's true, that's not like, that can be true, and I think we would all accept that as the truth if he had not said it as an excuse. Like,
so you agree with the statement in terms of, yes, it was the last.
Yeah, no, I totally do.
Game,
I really do.
But maybe we can disagree, and I just mean the collective.
That shouldn't.
Yeah, that shouldn't be something that you say after being blown out 55-20. And saying, "Oh, it didn't care anyway." It's a sore loser move.
Yeah, and something that I have a problem with we do in college football media and just people think in general is that like we always want coaches and everybody to tell us the truth, and then when they tell us the truth, we get mad. So like,
I feel like that's a life thing. That's a life thing.
It's definitely happening in sports because everything everyone always wants to talk about is just like, cut it with the coach speak, give us real answers. Then they give us real answers, and everybody hates it. Like, so it's just easier for coaches to go coach speak. However, I mean, like, Dan, again, like you said, Dan Mullen is an all-time sore loser. I think that that's not entirely a bad thing. You don't want your coach to like losing, but it's not a great look, and I worry about it in the sense of like that kind of is the attitude that this team has presented later in the season, and it's also just one of those things where like it's just like when Dan Mullen was talking about the shoe, the cleat yeet when Marco Wilson yeeted the cleat. Yes. And he talked about in the post game he didn't know what it was, or like that we were up, that like the reporters and everything like didn't understand what was happening and he didn't see it. Right. Like that is something that is so clearly wrong. Yeah. That's kind of the thing that he used in this game, and I was like, that's a problem. However, I will offer another thing that it is not an excuse, but an explanation that like I don't blame the team, and I totally get this, that like this coronavirus season, you just lost the CSC championship. You're going to play as a top 10 Oklahoma team, and you just want the season to be over. Like, you just need to get through this game. I get it. And that's the other thing you got to remind, because then you could flip it on the other side. It's like Oklahoma wasn't like that. And I get it. But as I've looked throughout the season, like there's some teams that just want the season to be over. Like I think we talked a lot about like there are some teams that probably if you asked, like everyone before the season wanted to play, obviously. But there are some teams and some people that I think you asked postseason, some teams would have decided not to. If they could go back and change the way things were. Yeah. And this team wouldn't do that in my opinion, but it is one of those things where like I don't think you can as appropriately-ish like line up motivations this year as you can in other years. Everyone's playing a different schedule, everyone's going through different things. Like I don't know. Again, I don't want that to be an excuse. I'm just trying to provide context to what I think the situation might be. It felt like a game they were just trying to get through because they knew that they weren't going to win, which is a terrible thing for you to have as a mindset. But then again, I don't know.
So I want to transition into the story of the season, right? What your story of the season you think what would be, and I'll be rude and I will start
go ahead.
First.
I talked for like 5 minutes.
No, I know, but new segment, new part, whatever.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I will remember this season by, I think I'll remember this season not only is the coronavirus season, obviously, I think what we all will, but I will remember this season in part by, quote, if only we had spring practice, if only we had preparation. Because I think that a lot of the things that went wrong with this season in terms of mentality, in terms of reactionary, I think a lot of the things in terms of Grantham's defense, they
can be tied to missing spring practice.
The Pandora's box, I think, opening moment, I think could be tied to missing spring practice and summer camp, and the fact that Savage really couldn't be hands-on with these guys in the weight room and in that culture. Because we talk a lot about the Gator standard, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Gator standard is implemented in the spring and in the summer.
I agree.
With every new batch of year, yes, you had your Kyle Trask, you had your Kadarius Toney, you had your Kyle Pitts, your Trevon Grimes, but these guys are seniors. These guys are guys that have understood it and clearly saw, hey, I have a chance to boost my draft stock exponentially on a selfish level and on a collective level, on a team level. We have a chance to do something serious. So I feel like the reason you saw most of that output and production from those kind of guys is because they already had that Gator standard ingrained in them, you know?
It's just like you think if they're in the facility in the spring and summer every other day, and they got the Georgia loss or the LSU loss play on a repeat, you think that doesn't change something?
I think it does.
And like, I don't want to say that correlation is causation, but you look at a lot of the issues that Florida had this year. Most of them kind of all boiled down to two things, at least defensively. One is scheme and just getting your players lined up,
and that's on Grantham.
That's on Grantham, but a lot of that is basics, fundamentals that gets implemented in the spring and the summer. And then additionally, it sucks to say, but work ethic was an issue for the defense.
It was.
It can all be boiled down to like work ethic, and that's not the same for every player. Not every player had the same issue, but generally there was a work ethic problem in my opinion. And you look at Florida's other 2 seasons under Dan Mullen, I don't think work ethic has ever been a team problem. Ever since that Missouri loss, the year following, I don't think work ethic that Florida lost some games, but it wasn't because they didn't try.
Correct.
And even for 4 times in the game, like Mullen's players quit in that Missouri game in 2017. 2018. But they had not. They weren't quitting throughout the season. They didn't have a lack of work ethic in other games. So it's a matter of, again, correlation is not automatically causation. But you look at Dan Mullen's 3 seasons. The 1 season that he didn't have spring practice.
Yeah.
They had a work ethic problem.
Or hands-on summer
That
camp.
is not a overarching problem that was in either of the 2 previous seasons.
Right. Agreed.
In which case, I don't know if this is the case. You could argue that would have been harder to have work ethic. Like the first season would probably have been hard to have a work ethic problem. And they did for a little bit, and they fixed it. This season, the season you come back and everyone in the building probably feels that they could win something this year. This shouldn't be the year that you have a work ethic problem.
Right.
So it's very possible that you're right, that this is the year. What could have been if we had spring practice? Because I think a lot of the issues of this team, especially defensively, were fundamental and not extraneous. Like
right. And I think another thing that I think we'll remember this season by is the defense, unfortunately. And I'm doing the negative things first so we can end on a positive. But
yeah,
the defense, unfortunately, and the entire, we got 3rd and Grantham a lot this season. We got
first in Grantham. We got 2nd in Grantham. We got 4th in Grantham. There ain't a 5th down, but we got 5th in Grantham, in my opinion.
Listen, I don't know how it happens, but I don't know if there's a term we can come up with, just the defense not being set on a no huddle. Every team saw film of us and they said, "Oh,
everyone knew exactly what to do.
Exactly what
to do."
And I think unfortunately that's going to be a reason that we remember it by, because. And I want to go into something a little bit more positive here, because we had such a good offense, because we had a Heisman finalist, because we had 2 of the most unguardable offensive players in the country.
Yeah.
A big reason why I think we'll remember this season is, man, if only the defense could have X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And I agree. And like, odd thing also, just that I've talked about Todd Grantham, is that like, you got to give his team's credit, because actually his defenses got better generally as games went on, like within the game. Like third quarter, they usually actually played a lot better, but they never played better at the beginning. And like, I never understood why that couldn't change. Like, why? It's just like, I know I'm not a coach, but it's just like, well, what you're doing in the 3rd quarter, why don't you just have them do that at the start of the next game? Like, anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, what I will remember and this is a personal thing, what I'll remember about this season was the Georgia game. And again, I attended the Georgia game.
Right.
And I wore my mask the whole time, so nobody come at me, because I was being very responsible. But I attended the Georgia game with my father, and to have it play out the way it did, and for Kyle Trask to throw 4 touchdowns, drop 44 points, throw for like 474 yards, absolute domination in the 2nd quarter, kind of a lull of a second half, but it wasn't ever really in jeopardy. Super, like
right.
It almost was in jeopardy a couple times, then it wasn't.
Well, that was just a great college football day for us because that was the day of not only we beat Georgia for the first time in a couple years and fantastic, we won the East, but that was also the Notre Dame Clemson
game,
part 1. And then, on a political scale, our political leanings, a bad day for others, but for us, a good day.
Pretty solid. FSU also lost that day. So
FSU also lost that day. So, I get that. And I think that was a moment where I think the next check mark is we'll get there. We'll get there in a bit. But go ahead and continue.
It's part of like progression's not always linear.
Exactly. That's where I was trying to get to.
This was the year, and this is what I always remember. This is the year that Dan Mullen got over the Georgia hump.
Yeah.
Florida won the East. Florida destroyed Georgia and won the East, and it was awesome to watch. And there was no game this season where Florida scored less than 30 points.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I would have dropped dead of a heart attack if you told me that. And I always wanted to remember that because I remember being a junior in college, and you were a senior in college, and we couldn't. It was a challenge to score 17 points. Like
Tyler, I remember crying in the stands. You remember you were there with me. I
was sitting right next to you,
crying in the stands at the end of the FSU game, not just because we lost, but because I was like, wow, my last Gator game as a student is this abysmal offensive performance. So perspective, and that's the thing, perspective, because remember at the beginning of the season when we lost to LSU, right? During the cleat yeet, right? The shoe game.
Yeah.
What did I tell you that Raul told me that I think still lingers in my head? Another how I'm going to remember the season, perspective. At the beginning of the season, what was the goal? The goal was to win the East and beat Georgia. And what did we do? We won the East and we beat Georgia. So again, linear, progression isn't linear. In this case, we got what our preseason goal was, and for that, there should be some celebration.
Well, and that's the thing, progression is linear. In year 2 of Dan Mullen's time at Florida, Florida progressed to the part where they beat every team that they were clearly better than. Yeah. And then they played, tough games against teams that were better, that were more talented than them. And, they didn't win both those games. They didn't win against LSU and they didn't win against Georgia, but they played really, really tough. This year, they destroyed Georgia, the team on their schedule that clearly had more talent than them.
Right.
But they lost to LSU, a bad LSU team. They lost a very close game to Texas A&M. They regress in the aspect of keeping ahead of the people below you.
They got caught looking.
I still think that it's a thing. Florida. This team is so interesting because this has been very different from a lot of teams that we've had for Florida in a while. Is the sense that Florida's spectrum this season was so vast.
Yeah,
Florida at their best this season, in my opinion, was a playoff team.
Yeah.
When Florida was playing at their best, they were playing as one of the 4 best teams in the country. I believed when they were playing the SEC championship, Florida's one of 3 teams in the country that had a shot to beat Alabama.
Yeah.
That was Ohio State, Clemson, and Florida. If all 3 of those teams played at their best day, those 3 teams had a shot. I don't think that Notre Dame would ever had a shot on their best day, and that's the case. However, Florida's floor was not good. Mm-hmm. It was undisciplined. It was chaotic. And usually Florida's spectrum as a team has not been that vast. Florida's kind of what they are. They'll have slightly good games. They'll have slightly bad games, but their performances, when in year 2 and year 1, the performances are generally pretty consistent. This year, the performances were so vast, so different between at their best and at their worst. And that is, that might be something that would have been fixed in spring practice, but it is a perspective because Florida progressed in the getting over Georgia hump, but then they regressed in their consistency.
Right. And I even think
progression is not linear. So we'll see what this is. And we'll look forward to 2021 another time, but I don't actually think that this was the chance, and now Florida's not going to be good next season.
Yeah, I don't think we had a 1-year window and we didn't capitalize. I think in a vacuum, and I know life in college football does not work in a vacuum, but just amuse me for a second.
Oh, of course.
Let's take our 2 most difficult games these past 2 seasons. This year it was Georgia and the SEC championship game in Bama, and the year before it was the LSU game on the road and the Georgia game. You look at that, right? and you compare the 2 games we lost in those seasons, right? So LSU, we lost by, it was technically 14 points.
14 points. Mostly a one-score game.
It was mostly a one-score game. I think we were either tied or leading at halftime. And it was clearly the most competitive any team played LSU during that historic 2019 season. Yeah. Clearly. And then this year, the loss was we played in terms of a complete game, Alabama the best than any other team in the country, and it was a 1-possession game. And you think about it, you never know. If we have 30 more seconds, maybe something happens. But we don't live in that world, and I'm not going to go there. But I'm saying, the 1-possession type loss, and then you compare Georgia, and what did? We improved. We
beat them by 16 points.
We beat them by 16 points. The game wasn't in question after the first quarter.
The second quarter, yeah.
It wasn't in question. And you look at that, and what did they do? They took advantage of a weaker Georgia team, a Georgia team that hadn't figured out their quarterback situation, that Kirby was kind of playing around and messing around and stuff, and we capitalized, and that's what you should do. So I feel like when you take into a vacuum those 2 games from each season, we improved, and I think that's the theme of the episode. Progression isn't linear.
And it's a good point. Always good to bring up. Most coaches in their 3rd year at a school take a dip. Most coaches do, and Florida half took a dip and half didn't. Like, one side of the ball is the best it's been in a very long time, and the other was the worst it's been in a very long time. So it's almost like they kind of gave the 3rd year coach dip, Tyler, like the shoulder a little bit.
Tyler, this was the seesaw season.
Yeah, seesaw season.
This was a seesaw season because
it's a great way to put it.
When the offense was at its best, the defense was really bad, and the moments that the defense kind of showed up a little bit with making some stops. For example, at the end of the A&M game, in the 3rd quarter of the Bama game, the offense made a couple of mistakes here and there that are normal, that it's going to happen. But because we were so dependent, exactly, the margin for error was so slim.
And that, so we'll see what happens. I mean, the dip season is a thing that happens. Urban Meyer experienced this in his 3rd year. Ryan Day is probably about to go into one because he had Justin Fields for 2 years. Generally, this is what you deal with, and we shall see.
So before we go into what we need to see addressed, what we want to early look ahead for next year, and also about Gators in the draft. Another reason, it's the Trask Heisman campaign. It's the Kyle Pitts being a monster. It's Kadarius Toney literally being a human joystick on the football field. And then, unfortunately, the cleat yeet. I feel like those are the 4.
I'll never be able to get over that.
I don't think we ever will. And
maybe I could, but no one I know is going to let me get over it.
Listen, and if we end up going to Louisiana for the LSU game with my cousin Vinny next year, he's not going to let me live it down. We're going to go to the game. They won't let us. The fans won't let us. And they shouldn't, because
no, they shouldn't.
It was a crazy moment.
We still make fun of them for the stopping Darius guys at the goal line.
Yes, exactly. That's what makes rivalries fun.
Did you know? I actually looked this up because I was curious. Florida currently leads the LSU series by, I believe, 34-33.
It's like
that is how close it is. Let me double check, but I know it's like 1 game apart.
So while you check that, I want to just take a second and how we'll remember the story of the season. Kyle Trask for Heisman was definitely
33 Florida, 31 LSU, 3 ties in between, so it's 31-33. So they're 2 behind us.
That's close,
but they're on a two game win streak.
Wow.
But yes, Kyle Trask. Yes. He was a Heisman finalist. We say all this. I would never have believed that Kyle Trask would have been a Heisman finalist.
Oh,
never. Really?
Never.
I'd been I could see it in certain ways, but I would never have been he's a Heisman finalist, no doubt.
And I think what cements that is at the beginning of the season, we said, Kyle Trask will be the quarterback. We thought he was the best returning one. We didn't think Emory had a chance to win the job, but it wasn't because Kyle Trask is a Heisman finalist. No. It was because Dan Mullen doesn't like to go away from his quarterbacks. He has a system. It wasn't like we were, Kyle Trask is one of the 4 best players.
It wasn't a conversation worth having because we know what Dan Mullen does, and Dan Mullen does not just bench his quarterback that he's been riding with.
Exactly.
He just doesn't do that, and he likes to develop his young guys. And so
I think that's I think if we're going to talk about
and it was because the entire offseason, we all knew Kyle Trask would get the start, but everybody was just is that the right idea? Correct. People were seriously should we just start Emory? And then you come out and Kyle Trask played. I mean, I still think Kyle Trask, Mac Jones is the only other argument. Kyle Trask had the best season as a quarterback this year, in my opinion.
Can I give you the numbers?
Go ahead.
He was 301 for 437. His completion percentage was 69. Nice. It's actually 68.9, but I'm just gonna round it up.
No, round that bad boy up.
It's nice. He threw for 4,283 yards, which came out to 9.8 yards per attempt. And he had a 43-8 touchdown to interception ratio, which if you remove the 3 interceptions from the bowl game, would have been a 43-5 touchdown interception ratio.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
Those are Joe Burrow numbers.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about this when we get into Cal Trask's NFL draft talk, and I'll mention again when we do that. You don't accidentally score 43 touchdowns.
No. No, you don't. No, you do not. All right, man. Listen.
I'll always remember that, though.
All right, as that was this season, quickly, and I mean quickly because I want to get to the draft stuff. Going forward. Right now, what do you see for next year?
What am I projecting for next year?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think needs to happen? What are you projecting? How are you feeling about next year in this moment on the day of our Lord, January 20th, 2021?
I mean, I feel like next year's team is going to be more like an 8-4, 9-3 team.
Okay.
Like, I don't think this team is going to fall off a cliff like I think some people might think it will.
Mm-hmm.
Like, next year's going to be rough. I don't think that at all because I think that in this Dan Mullen. I have no worries about Dan Mullen offensively. Like, none at all. Like, I think Emory Jones will be fine with an entire offseason as the starter in practice. Better run game. The O-line's been developing, getting better every year, in my opinion. Still left to concern with, and like depth-wise. So offensively, I'm not really worried. I think that the new style that they're going to implement will actually make it will make playing teams with lesser talent easier. Because it'll be so run-oriented.
Right.
More balanced in that. But it might be more difficult to beat the better teams. And Alabama's on the schedule next year, so that's like an automatic loss. And we'll see. I see like a 9-3, 8-4 team, depending on like how the ball swings.
Okay.
I think it'll be good, but I don't think anyone really expects, and I don't really expect Florida to be in a playoff consideration next season. Like this was like, you can kind of see these things coming, like the caliber of the team that's about to come back. I think this is a reloading year. Like,
yeah. But I think,
yeah, that's mostly offense oriented. Defense,
right,
is a big question mark because Dan Mullen's retaining Todd Grantham, and we know that Dan Mullen in the coaching circle is a bit of a curmudgeon, and like he's not everybody's favorite guy to work for. And I'll say, like, I mean, like the first 2 years Todd Grantham was in Florida, like the defenses weren't bad. They were fine. And the thing is, like, thought is that they could eventually get better. Turns out that I'm not really convinced that they're ever going to get better than they were fine those 2 years. And they were even good really good his second year.
Yeah.
But you've heard rumors of I like the new staff hires. If they bring in some new people, I've heard Mullen's trying to get a co-defensive coordinator in. That is a good way to, in my opinion, that's the closest thing you could do to just hiring a straight up new defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Bring somebody else in who's a co-defensive coordinator. If anything, that's very clearly like a Todd, you're not doing your job well enough.
Correct.
Like, which case you should probably just fire him. But like, I don't know. I don't know. But we'll see. I mean, Urban Meyer being in Jacksonville is not helping Dan Mullen get people on his coaching staff.
Yeah,
so, like,
it's not
I've won, but at what cost?
Well, maybe there'll be some other Gators joining Urban Meyer in Jacksonville, and let's quickly talk about these Gators in the draft. And I think we can go from, you put them in a certain order, and I'm kind of assuming, we haven't talked about it, but I'm assuming that this order is probably the best prospects in order.
I mean, the top 4 are ordered in the order that I think that they will go in.
Got it. Okay. All right.
After that, below that, it's you're getting into late round stuff, and it really is depending on just who the team is. Like,
okay.
And we'll try to talk about where we see each of these prospects just for a little bit.
All right. So let's do 30 seconds on each of these guys, and let's see what we're doing. We'll go more in depth when we project, especially these top guys. When we do our actual draft coverage, but just
because it's ramping up, baby,
and that's why we're doing.
We're getting closer.
A little taste. Let's start with the unequivocal best player on the Gators team in terms of pure talent. It's Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is number one. Tyler is the question with him isn't is he a first rounder? It's will he go in the top 10 or not?
Not even the shears of fate could prevent this man from going in the first round. It is destined.
Yeah.
I don't see him falling past wherever the New England Patriots pick.
Okay, which is 15.
Yeah, but I mean they could trade back or whatever. But like, there's no way he falls past the New England Patriots.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, no, I think
there's just, and I know maybe that's completely based in falsity, but like everyone's looking at the Patriots and what they always like to be, and they're looking at Kyle Pitts, and they're looking back at the Patriots, looking at Kyle Pitts, and I'm like,
just kiss already.
Are you just kiss already? Like, so we'll see if it happens. I think he could go top 10. I think.
What do you say to people who I have had conversations with that say it would be dumb for X team to take Kyle Pitts in round 1 because tight ends shouldn't go until the 3rd or 4th round?
Racism. I don't know. No. I don't actually think that's not actually what I'm trying to say.
I don't think that's not with Pitts.
No, I understand the sentiment.
Mm-hmm. Why would you take a tight end if there's other positions?
Well, because Kyle Pitts is not a tight end; he's a weapon.
Exactly. That was my answer.
You have to reframe how you look at this. You're not drafting Kyle Rudolph. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even saying like this is not a statement on how good Kyle Pitts will be at the NFL level. It's the way you would scheme with him. The way you're going to win with Kyle Pitts is by using him like Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Is by using him like Darren Waller. You're not like Kyle Pitts can block. He's fine as an inline blocker, but that is not the reason you're drafting him. You're not drafting him in the 4th because you need another body at tight end that can block, and it's just like, oh, if they end up being a good pass catcher, A+ for us. Like, but we need a new body. No, you are drafting him. He's basically another wide receiver. Yeah. It's all about body type. Like the Ravens would be amazing to draft Kyle Pitts because they need a body type like this. They need a chain mover.
Yeah.
Like you're not drafting him to be an inline blocker. You're drafting him to be a weapon. In which case, in today's NFL, where you need to score points.
It would be smart. Yep. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Next up, Kadarius Toney. Tyler, are we rioting? I don't want to say rioting. Poor choice of words with the recent events in this country. Are we? Sorry. I just watched a whole lot of political coverage today because of the inauguration. Let me rephrase that. All right. Don't hold that against me, guys. Kadarius Toney. Are we sending a strongly worded letter to the NFL when the Chiefs draft him, or is another team going to get him before the Chiefs?
I think it's more people have been manifesting this, and maybe I'm a nut and listen to a bunch of draft coverage. But I feel like everybody was just like, so one person started saying Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs at the last pick of the 1st round, and then it started to go higher and higher ever since.
Can I give my boy Day credit? He has been saying this since October. He has been grassroots.
His takes are so out.
His takes are all over the place. But
he's got some seesaw takes.
But he was spot on with this one, dude. He was spot on with this one.
I think he'd be perfect fit for New Orleans if they continue to do what they do.
Okay.
He'd be a perfect fit for New England. I know you would hate hearing that.
I would.
I say this. Kadarius Toney would be a perfect fit for pretty much most teams that need a wide receiver. Because he was such a gadget player for 3 years. And then he learned how to be an actual receiver. And he could still be a gadget player, but he is a legitimate receiver now and a damn good one.
Yeah, he is.
Now, he may not go in the 1st round. It really depends on what teams want, but I don't see him going any later than early 2nd.
Yeah, me too. If anything, I don't think
with the way wide receivers are valued.
Yeah, I don't think he makes it past pick 40. That's to me how it goes. All right, next up, Kyle Trask. We talk a lot. We text a lot about this off air. The Kyle Trask where he should end up discussion. We probably have like twice a week. And I think we have both settled on we would like for him to go somewhere where he can learn behind a quarterback, and it's not the immediate pressure of someone like a Tua, like the savior of the franchise, someone like a Joe Burrow, someone like a Herbert from these past years. You know what I mean?
He needs to sit and develop and anticipate. Because the way that Kyle Trask wins with the football is with that processing and anticipation.
He doesn't have a cannon of an arm.
That's the thing. Specifically, it's anticipation and comfortability with his wide receivers.
Right.
He's not going to be able to. He is not going to be able to throw passes that his arm strength does not provide him the margin of error that a first-round quarterback needs.
Let me put it this way. Dan Mullen didn't fall in love with his arm. He fell in love with his brain.
Yeah, that is the great way to put it, because I don't think Kyle Trask goes any earlier than the second. I don't think he goes any later than the fourth, because quarterback desperation is a thing. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to go in the second or third round, because he's
either a late half of day 2, third round, or he's one of the first names called on day 3 with round 4.
In the last 10 years, an average of 5.9 quarterbacks get drafted in the first 3 rounds. Mm-hmm. Kyle Trask is the consensus QB6 right now.
Okay.
So it's very likely he'll get drafted in day 2.
Mm-hmm.
I've texted you this, but I have not put it out there in the universe yet. I'm putting it out there right now in the pod. My NFL comp for Kyle Trask is Dwayne Haskins. Obviously not taking away all of the off the field stuff. That's not related at all. But both not mobile, not the greatest arm strength, fine for college, but not the greatest for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Remains to be seen if it has the threshold. They both were in pass-happy spread offenses coordinated by genius offensive minds of Dan Mullen and Ryan Day.
Yep.
With a bevy of elite
weapons around them.
Dwayne Haskins had Terry McLaurin, Johnny Dixon, KJ Hill, and Chris Olave.
Jesus.
And J.K. Dobbins was the primary running back.
What a weapon!
That's fantastic. He has nearly just as many. I mean, and I'm Homer here, but he had just as many, if not a little bit more, maybe even of weapons than Kyle Trask had.
Yeah.
So it's very similar. But Dwayne Haskins, I don't think was benefited from having to start in his first season.
And none of us liked that pick, and not because we didn't think Dwayne Haskins couldn't be successful in the league, but because we said the same thing about him when he was drafted. He needs to go somewhere to sit, and the fact that he was expected to be the savior of the Washington football team I think, had an effect on.
I mean, the coaches didn't want to draft him. They didn't want to draft him in the first round, and the management did it anyway, because that's because Dan Snyder's terrible at his job.
Right. Exactly.
But I mean, Kyle Trask's best place for him, in my opinion, would be New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Just fitting what they currently are. Now, if Drew Brees retires and the Saints don't want to be a quick game passing team anymore, they want to go back to having a big arm quarterback, this would not work for him. But Kyle Trask needs to go to a place where he can sit. He needs to go to a dome team, preferably, or warm weather team. I don't like everybody saying you should go to Pittsburgh, because I don't love his arm in Pittsburgh.
I don't either. I think mine. I think I would like to see him on the Vikings. I would like to see him sit behind. As much as we say Kirk Cousins isn't one of those elite NFL quarterbacks, I think Kirk Cousins is a good enough quarterback that Trask can sit behind.
Kirk Cousins wins with his brain.
Exactly. And I think it's a thing where he can learn how to do that so he can become a Kirk Cousins-like quarterback in the NFL. A journeyman quarterback. I think Kyle Trask could
really carve himself out as a spot starter or a not Super Bowl type quarterback, but good enough.
Wow, I can't believe X team is winning with this guy at quarterback, which is fine. Yeah, that's a career. That's fine. That's money.
That is a better athletic career than 99% of people have.
Exactly. So no shame in that.
There's millions of dollars in that.
So all right, let's move forward. Next on the list, we have Trevon Grimes. Let me say this right here on the pod. Don't get it twisted. I'm coming in hot. Trevon Grimes is this year's Van Jefferson. A third, fourth round draft pick that people are like, oh yeah, he was all right in college because he didn't get as much productivity, and then quickly finds his way on a roster, and every person in training camp's like, hey, we really like what we're seeing out of Trevon. Hey, we really like what we're seeing out of Grimes. Hey, this guy's a worker. This guy's a dog. All those talk in the preseason from coaches, that's what I see coming out of him. I think Van Jefferson's a better player.
I do too, because Van Jefferson wins with route running, and I think that's more applicable.
Exactly. Trevon Grimes.
I think Trevon Grimes is a fine route runner. Yeah. He's developed very well as a receiver. The first year, it was he's clearly an athlete, and again, Felipe Franks was the quarterback and wasn't playing well at the time. But it's just he's very clearly an athlete. That's great, but how are we gonna get him the ball?
Yeah.
And then you look at this season where he's a weapon.
There is a reason he was a 5-star coming out of St. Thomas and went to Ohio State.
So, I mean, Trevon Grimes falls in the category that a lot of receivers fall into in the medium category of, okay, you're picking in the 2nd to 5th round. You need a receiver. Here's all these great college receivers. Just pick one.
Yeah, he falls in there.
I have no projection of where Trevon Grimes is going to go. It's just going to be someone's going to need a receiver, and they're going to be like, oh, it's the Florida kid. Yeah, let's get him.
Yeah, that's how I feel it's going to go.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Evan McPherson, clearly kicker one.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely kicker one.
Clearly kicker one.
The guy, he came out early, guys.
I don't know why.
You know what? I think someone was like, hey, look, man, the kicker class for I don't do much homework on the kicker class, but I think maybe someone told him the kicker class this year's weak. If you come out, you'll be the clear number one. You'll get the most money. Just do it. You probably have your degree already because college athletes get their degree in 3 years because they have to be there over the summer anyway.
That's definitely like Trevor Lawrence is academically graduated.
Yeah, exactly. Like they have their pieces of paper. So I think he
Deshaun
got his
Watson
degree.
graduated in 3 years.
Yeah, I think he got his degree. Maybe the money's better this year than next year. Why not go for it? Let's go for it.
I mean,
if he gets drafted, yeah, I think he's a clear 6th round pick. It'll be great.
He'll get drafted, yeah. Next up, we got Kyrie Campbell, the defensive tackle. Again, falling into a similar mold of solid college player. I mean, great college player, and it's one of those things like in the later rounds. I think Kyrie Campbell will get drafted.
I think so too.
Because also it's one of the things like defensive tackle is a position where there's a million wide receivers every year, especially now in today's world. There's a million wide receivers and running backs, and there's a million quarterbacks. If you just had to pick a quarterback, there's probably 20 that are eligible this year. Like. Defensive tackle is a position that it's hard to. It's like there's not often many of them. So I think that Kyrie Campbell will get drafted, probably in the 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the next two in the same category: Stone Forsythe and Brett Heggie, the 2 offensive linemen. I think
they made themselves some money this year.
I agree. Right? That's what I was gonna say. I think they play themselves from undrafted free agents to like the 6th round, 6th maybe 5th round, and I feel like if teams are needing some depth, I think if teams are needing some big bodies that are smart and capable of throwing in there for a few plays a game, or someone gets hurt to kind of fill in, I think these are your guys for cheap.
And that's, to be honest, that's what the 5th through 7th rounds are. That is like, we're gonna swing at some prospects that we like,
and very rarely,
and hopefully some of them work out. Like,
there's a reason that Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Like he wasn't supposed to become the GOAT. You know, he rose in that way, and you never know what you can find in the late rounds, but the majority of those players are going to end up being these guys that are, maybe journeyman players, or maybe they're lifetime practice squad guys, but hey, get your money. They got their degrees, might as well go for it. I feel like they both made themselves some money on the line this year, because the line did improve, and that's a sneaky topic that we didn't talk about much throughout the year, but the line did improve from years
the line did improve.
And then we have Marco Wilson. I think he played his way out of some money this year.
I agree.
This was a guy that
so drastically.
I was so high on him. I was thinking he could have been. A lot of people were picking. I don't know if they picked Surtain to be preseason defensive player of the year, but I was like, where's the love for Marco in terms of cornerback play, whatever? Because given what he had showed us years prior, you expected it to show up, and I think the fact that he played horrible this year, and he was caught out of position so much, and
it's not just that he played horrible; it's all the other stuff.
Yeah,
it's like
throwing the shoe didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, and just off. I mean, like not even off field, but just like when you're on the field, like attitude things.
Yeah,
like chomping at the Vanderbilt players when you get a stop when you got beat for a touchdown earlier in the game, which like, and I get it. When you play cornerback, you have to have a confidence in yourself to to be able to play. Like that's. Your entire position is built on smacking the ball out of people's hands, like saying you denied. Like, so I get it, but it doesn't back up the level of play that he had.
Right, and I think it's something that we've seen in the NFL out of Quincy Wilson too. It's kind of been this thing of like, I am the best when, dude, you're not, and like. It's a lot of working out for Instagram and not working out to get better. Now, that's not an accusation. I don't think that's what they do. I think they actually do work hard, but it's that mentality is what I mean. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
I think he went from a 3rd round draft pick to undrafted
UDFA,
undrafted free agent. So, hopefully that kind of brings him down to earth and he can work his tail off at a camp and kind of make his way on the roster, but we'll see.
That would require we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
And quickly about the NFL Combine, it has been decentralized this season. So it's not like we're going to have, a few days.
The Combine.
Right, we're not going to have the Combine. Workouts are going to happen on individual college campuses. So it's basically just going to be glorified versions of the pro days. Yep. All interviews will be virtual. And they still haven't figured out how they're going to do medicals with team staff and stuff like that. Because that's a big reason why the Combine is there. All the doctors are there. Yeah. They can get all the medical information,
like certified, like
exactly.
Because I mean, universities lie about their measurements, and I don't really care.
No,
like,
but
I will say
Treon Harris was listed as 6'1". That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know,
buddy.
Yeah.
I'm 6'8" then. Like,
I'm 6'5". Let's do it. Forget it, man.
All right. I will say Senior Bowl is still happening.
Yes.
And that is very good. I love the Senior Bowl. It's
the Senior Bowl is independent of both the NFL
yeah.
and the collegiate place. It's its own independent thing, and they contract the NFL rosters and the NFL coaching staffs, not rosters, but the coaching staffs, to come in and do the work. So that's important to note.
I believe it's the Panthers and
the Dolphins, baby, and the Dolphins.
Ooh, interesting.
But I'm a little agitated because the room that include the wide receiver, like team, quote unquote, that includes Kadarius Toney and includes a whole bunch of other really good guys, is being coached by the Panthers. And the Dolphins got stuck with a couple of good prospects there, but most of them I'm like, oh, these are like round 5 guys, maybe undrafted free agent type guys. And
that's
like,
what your entire wide receiver core is made of right now.
Yeah, dude, I'm like, what's going on? But Najee Harris did say he's going to come, and he is on the Dolphins coaching staff roster there. So
I don't know why he has nothing to prove, but that's cool.
I think he's going to get a week with the Dolphin coaching staff and get familiar. I think Tua made a phone call and said,
"That's a good point.
That's what I think happened. That's what I think happened." I think he made multiple phone calls, and he said, "Hey, Flo,
it's very possible.
Take a look." And he went over to Najee and said, "Hey, just go spend a week in Mobile, Alabama. It'll be worth it." So
just do it. Yeah.
So yeah.
No. He should come to Jacksonville.
Anyway, we're talking
spell James Robinson.
We're talking.
That's a pretty deadly 1-2 punch right there.
I don't want to talk about this. Let's quickly talk about. Let's quickly talk about Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
There's been speculations.
Free my boy.
Free our boy. We are a pro free Deshaun Watson podcast, as you know. It looks like right now the favorites are the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Panthers, all because of both their current quarterback situations and or the amount of picks that they have. So clearly the Jets have a war chest of potential, I guess.
They have the number 2 pick.
They could trade that. They have future first that they can give up.
And the Jets and the Dolphins are actually in like the same position where they both have a young quarterback that they could trade to Houston so if you trade the second or third pick, you're probably not including your young quarterback. Maybe you are, but like you're trading that so that the Houston Texans can get a quarterback. Like,
correct.
Because I don't think Houston's trying to get. Houston's not gonna. Okay. Words. Give me a second. If Houston trades Deshaun Watson, which actually to me it seems more and more likely that they might find a way to keep him. I don't think he'd be happy about it, but like,
yeah, it's reported that the relationship is severed. Like it's reported that it's just not going well at all.
But Texans aren't getting out of this without one getting a young player back from the team that they trade Deshaun to, a young quarterback back. Or 2, getting a draft pick that will put them in a position to get a quarterback.
And they want picks.
Like they don't have any picks because they're stupid.
Yeah.
Well, so it doesn't matter. So which do you think is more likely, the Jets or the Dolphins?
I think the Dolphins.
I have my take.
I think the Dolphins are more likely. Yeah, because I think that they like the idea of starting over with Tua. We can give them back. Not give them back 3, but we can give them 18. We can also include a first rounder the year after. So that's 2 firsts, Tua Tagovailoa, and I think we can throw in maybe this year's one of this year's second. No, 1 second this year and a second next year.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like that would do it.
Sense.
And we have the assets. We have the capital to do it. The Panthers, I think,
are
a little.
Deshaun Watson.
It's Deshaun Watson. And listen, I saw a meme on the Dolphins Reddit where it was like a 3-headed dragon, and like one was super strong and mighty, and it was like trade for Deshaun Watson. One was in the middle, and it was keep Tua and get all the draft picks, and they were both strong one. And then there was like the baby cute cartoon
the derpy one,
and that one was draft a quarterback in the first round. It was like, no, what are you doing? No, that's not what we do.
That's King Ghidorah from Godzilla,
exactly.
King of Monsters.
Yes, exactly.
In that movie, the left-headed dragon the two others pick on him the whole time. Like,
well, I feel like that's what's going on right now. So yeah, I think
drafting a quarterback in the first round would be the dumbest thing ever for the Dolphins.
No.
Like,
and I think
so that's not happening,
right?
I think you've got two pretty good streets to walk down right now,
right?
Like, so because I'm still of the camp, and you are too. I think that obviously, like, that you can win with Tua. Like,
yeah, I think so.
But if Deshaun Watson's only going to waive that no trade clause to come to Miami, it's Deshaun Watson. You have to do it. Like,
exactly. You have to give up the capital, the assets to go ahead and make it happen. I don't think the Texans are as enamored with Sam Darnold, and I don't think the Jets
shouldn't be.
And I don't think the Jets are too attractive of a location for Watson if he wants to waive his clause.
See, okay, yeah. So from that angle, I get it. Why the Dolphins is way more likely, because the Dolphins and Panthers are both better win now spots than the Jets.
I think they're both better win now and win in the future spots.
Good point. But Deshaun will likely view them. Miami is the most attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers is the second most attractive. Jets is the third if we're talking about these three teams. Mm-hmm. However, I think the team's willing to the team itself's willingness to do this. I think the Jets are at the top of the list. I think the Jets come out of this with the Jets will be so willing to trade number 2 to get Deshaun Watson.
Agreed.
They're like, we could draft Zach Wilson or Justin Fields and be unsure about it the whole time, and be unsure if they're even going to be better than Sam Darnold, who we already have, and what if we let him go and he's good somewhere else? But we draft Deshaun Watson. I'm like 99% positive that's going to be the better outcome out of all 4 of these quarterbacks.
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
And I like Justin Fields and Deshaun Watson and Zach Wilson, but like, it's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Like, and so the Jets would do this in a heartbeat, in my opinion. Especially running in a Kyle Shanahan style offense coordinated by Mike LaFleur is what they're probably going to be doing. Like, so the Jets would be the most willing to do it. The Dolphins, I think they're in a tricky spot, because then you have to be like, we just spent all this time developing Tua. But then again, it's Deshaun Watson.
I think the explanation, and I think if there's media members or fans in the area down here that are like, oh, but what about the project? You guys promised this and that, whatever. I think Chris Greer goes to the microphone, goes, it's Deshaun Watson, and walks out of the press conference, because that is reason enough to trade Tua for. Yeah. I love Tua. You know this. I'm all in the camp. You said it before. I think Tua could succeed. I think one day we can compete for championships with Tua Tagovailoa. This is Deshaun Watson. I'm not dumb. I understand exactly what the situation is.
And it's, I even entertain that, and I'm stupid, because like, I talked to my Alabama friend who was like, who's like, well, if the choice is between Tua Tagovailoa and Deshaun Watson, like, she looked at me like she wasn't even sure what to do, and I'm like, you take Deshaun Watson. Like,
but she's biased.
She's now. I know. She's now being, and but I'm like, come on, Deshaun Watson carved you up for 2 years. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you do this if you're the Dolphins. I don't think it's gonna get solved anytime soon.
Neither do I.
And it's one of those things. I feel like what's gonna happen is the Texans are gonna hire Eric Bieniemy just to try to make Deshaun Watson happy.
They're gonna accidentally hire the best head coaching.
Yeah. We'll get into why all that's all sorts of messed up on another day, because I've got time.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
But they're gonna hire Eric Bieniemy to make Deshaun Watson happy. It's gonna be too late for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eric Bieniemy is going to be stuck in a situation where the only attractive thing about Houston is that you had a top 5 quarterback.
So you mean to tell me that Eric Bieniemy might be put in a position to fail?
Oh, that's wild.
Wow.
Jack Easterby, it's on site.
What? Literally.
It's hands on site.
Sell the team. Like, Tyler, we need to buy the Texans. We need to buy the Texans. Wow, usually you like...
I don't know how much money you make in school.
I don't make any money.
I don't make any money.
Listen, I thought you entertain me on these wild suggestions, but I guess not on this one.
If I am buying an NFL franchise, I am not buying the Houston Texans. All love to the city of Houston. I actually do like the city, but like, I ain't buying the Texans.
Oh, man. Well, at least we know for sure. Get Deshaun Watson out of there. Hopefully it's to a place where he succeeds. And selfishly, I hope it's to Miami. I'm not in any rush. The calendar year doesn't start till like mid-March, so they technically can't even make a trade till then. So
Yeah, but
we'll see what happens. We'll see where it goes. Tyler, I think that's it for the pod, right?
Yeah, I mean, we will be definitely. You guys better like NFL Draft Talk because we're not going to stop because we like
coming.
It.
It's this time of year.
Yeah, and I just this is podcast related, just in the grand theme of college football to NFL. Baker Mayfield played great this last weekend, in the divisional round.
Excuse me, sir. And that's the tired thinking. Wired thinking. Chad Henne played the game of his life.
We are both burned on Chad Henne. So.
I drafted Chad Henne.
yeah, and then we signed him.
Yeah, as a free agent.
See, you drafted him, and it was just like, he could be good. Then we knew that wouldn't work out, and Jacksonville decided, nah, we can make it work. No, I mean, Chad Henne winning the game on a scramble is something.
It is.
But I think I only brought that up because I tweeted about this, is that, like, we just talked about Tua. Mm-hmm. The way Tua can win in the NFL is the exact way that Baker's playing right now. Baker Mayfield has played excellent football the last half of the season. He's played really good football because he got back his best quality, which is decisiveness and his trigger. That is the way Tua Tagovailoa won in college, and that doesn't come in the first 6 games of being in the NFL. Like, so if you get that, I feel like Tua can play just as well. So, I just wanted to say that. Shout out to Baker Mayfield because nobody gives him love.
Well, he's not the best NFL quarterback. I think Tua is better than Baker Mayfield as both a college and NFL quarterback. But Baker was something special. I loved me some Baker that last year in Oklahoma, man. Oof.
I'm the one out here having you were the Baker Mayfield, like, well, because shaking Baker.
Okay, Oklahoma Baker Mayfield, bruh.
Like, we've said it on the podcast before that if they beat Georgia, I think that they would have smacked Alabama this week.
We are on record for saying that. I think we agree.
And maybe I'm stupid.
Georgia
for saying
Georgia
that.
Let Bama come back into the game in that natty. Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley would not have.
And great, Oklahoma let Georgia get back into their own game.
Granted,
but Oklahoma would not have been able. Georgia stopped being able to score in the second half.
Yeah.
Oklahoma ain't having that.
Oklahoma. Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma, they ain't having that problem. With Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, because Hollywood was a freshman. People forget this. Hollywood was a sophomore.
No,
CeeDee Lamb was a freshman.
CeeDee Lamb was a freshman. Like,
come on, bro. And that was when Charleston Rambo was also a freshman.
No, Charleston Rambo wasn't on the team.
Oh, I thought he was a freshman that year.
I think he probably was.
He might have been a freshman too. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
They had these young.
They're all so good. and guess what? They're gonna win a national championship this year. So
Diego would love that. I think it's
gonna be an OU Ohio State national championship.
And then they're gonna plant the flag in the middle of.
God.
I think that's as good a place as ever to end the episode, Tyler. We'll be back. We'll be back next week with our end of year awards episode. They are going to be some fun, funky, incredible awards that we are making up this coming week. I'm very excited. It'll be the button on the college football season, just like this episode was the button on the 2020 Florida Gators and our analysis of them. We will be coming back with that. And then after that, we'll see what we do. We may be waiting until the end of the NFL season. Maybe we'll do a little bit of NFL playoff stuff, just short episodes to see. And then draft season, baby. Draft season. We'll be coming in hot, in with a lot of content there. Tyler, This has been another episode of Sideline Judgment. My name is Sergio.
My name is Tyler.
And we are not biased. Go Gators.
Go Gators.